So in this video, we are going to continue to learn how do we solve equations, but now our equations are going to have variables on both sides. Before we continue, let's review what we learned from last class. Well, the solution to an equation is just the value of x that makes it true. And remember, there can be one value that makes this true, none, or infinite. How do we solve an equation? Well, we always use inverse operations, regardless of the regardless of how we're doing it, especially for a linear equation. Okay, so now in this situation, I have an x on both sides. So remember that our goal is to isolate x or keep it, on one side. So what we want to do is we basically want to do an inverse operation where we move it over. Okay, so in this case, we can move over the 3x by subtracting 3x from this side, canceling it, and moving this case. But then this would leave this side with a 0, and now my x still has the constant. If we move it over this way and subtract 6x from both sides, then we move it away from the constant and more into that process of isolation. All right, so the first step that we're going to do is we are going to subtract x, 6x. So again, we got to do to both sides. So the goal of this is it's going to cancel it from this side and move it over to this side. So here, remember when it moves, it's going to change signs. And that only happens when I'm moving it from each side of the equal sign. And so 3x minus 6x is going to equal to negative 3x. And then this side, all I'm left with is 45. So now I need to go ahead and do inverse operations to get rid of the negative 3. Well, what operation is being done to the negative 3 and the x? It's multiplication. How do we undo multiplication? We divide. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 3. So I'm going to divide here. This is going to cancel. And then on this side, I just want to be clear, whenever I'm canceling with division, it doesn't cancel out to 0 like when I do addition and subtraction. Here this is canceling out to the number 1 because remember I want to find 1x. So I have 1x here, and then in this case 45 divided by negative 3 is going to give me negative 15. How can we check? Well, let's plug this in. If I plugged it into one side, I'm going to get 3 times negative 15, which is negative 45. Now, if I plug it into the other side, I'm going to have 6 times negative 15 plus 45. Well, 6 times negative 15 is going to give me negative 90. Plus 45 is negative 45. So, does x make this equation true? Well, does it make this side equal to this side? Yes, it does. Good. So, this is the solution to this equation. Okay, so now let's go ahead and try the next. So here, the first thing, again, we want to do is move the x over to one side or the other. In this case, it doesn't matter because I have constants on both sides. So the side really, there's no strategic side. If I move over the 2x, I can add 2x to both sides. If I move over the 12x, I can subtract 12x from both sides. So I like adding more. So we're going to do move the 2x. So by adding 2x to both sides. So if I add 2x here, it's going to cancel out the negative 2x. If I add it on this side, again, I'm combining my like terms. So I'm going to have 4 is equal to 14x minus 24. Now I'm going to do my inverse operations. Well, I need to get rid of multiplying by 14 and subtracting 24. The first thing that needs to go is the minus 24 by adding 24. So we're going to add 24 to both sides, and we get 28. And then the last thing that we're going to do is get rid of the multiplying by 14 by dividing by 14. And so if you divide both sides by 14, your answer here is going to be 2. How can we check? Well, plug it in. Let's plug it into the first side. So in this case, if I do negative 2 times 2, you're going to have negative 4 plus 4, which is 0. And here, if I plug in a 2, 12 times 2 is going to be 24. And 24 minus 24 is also 0. So does this value make this equation true? Yes. It makes this side equal 0 and this side equal 0, so it's going to make it equal. Great. Okay, and then now looks like it's just a more complicated version, because now I have some distributive property going on. So here, what I would do is first we need to distribute and simplify that. So distribute. We basically need to simplify this. This looks like a really big, scary monster, but it's really not that scary once we like simplify it. So 3 over 2 times 8. Remember, I always say simplify the numerator and the denominator. Well, this is going to simplify to 4 and then multiply. 4 times 3 is 12. Again, let's do the same thing here. Negative 4 divided by 2 is going to simplify to negative 2, and negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. So notice that I'm bringing everything else down here. Now we need to continue to simplify this by combining like terms. So I'm just going to write CLT here. So my constants here, they combine. So my 12, my 6, and my 8, they're going to combine to be negative 14. And so now I can go ahead and solve this out for x. And so here we need to move our x's over to one side. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. So we're going to have 10x minus 14 equals 26. And now here we're going to add 14 to both sides. And so we get, when we do that, we get 40. And then we divide by 10. And we're going to get that x is equal to 4. How can I check? Well, if I plug in 4 to this side and plug in 4 to this side and get the same thing for both sides, then I'm good. So that's about it. So let's just continue to write the steps that we did here. So first we subtracted 2x. Then the next thing that we did here was we did that inverse operation to get rid of the negative 14. We added 14. And the last thing that we did was divide by 10. And usually this is about, I'm going to say 5 to 6 steps is the longest that it would take, right, to solve for x in this case. So I hope that you found this video helpful in how to solve when you have variables on both sides, and I hope that you've taken good notes.